Welcome to Pain with a Purpose, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of resilience, redemption, and purpose. I'm your host, Chris Woods, and each week we will sit down with guests who have faced challenges with substance abuse, mental health, and recovery. But we're not just dwelling on the past. Instead, we'll explore what keeps them driven towards a purposeful life. Join us as we navigate the journey from pain to a purpose. So with that, welcome back to Pain with a Purpose, season 1, episode 13, with Joe Fos.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, we're live.
I didn't know we were jumping in.
We're live.
Yeah,
brother.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
So I told you, it kind of catches you off guard, but no, definitely appreciate you coming out. I think we got a ton to talk about because we go, whether you know or not, or I mean, we know it, right? But like we go back a little bit.
We go back a little bit, yeah.
Not in the sense of like you and the MP1 boys, but like we go back, like some, like my first job working in drug and alcohol was like with you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it last night, right? Like, and I'll give you like a little shout out before we get started, right? But I remember like when we first started, and I was pissed. We were working second shift somewhere as behavioral techs, right? And I was like, all right, dude. I mean, like actually at the time, it actually was great. Like I actually loved it. But it wasn't like an ideal shift by any means. And I remember like meeting you for the first time, and you were working on the other side. So like we were working together, but you were working on the other side, but we would interact all the time. And I'm like, who's this? Yeah, like who's this? Some dude obviously from Northeast Philly, whatever.
Yeah.
Knew he had a sick car, but like at the end of the day, I was like, oh, he's probably just has a job. And then I find out that like not only did you have a sick car, but like you got sober years before I did.
Yeah, man.
And at the time, I think when we were working at that place, I might have had like 2 years sober.
Yeah.
We're coming up on it. And I was like, it was another hope shot where I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I might actually be able to do this.
Yeah. I had a few years, and funny enough, I left the union to take that job and took like a huge major pay cut. And we'll get into it as we go. But the reason for that really was I was in a bad spot in my own sobriety. Right. And I thought the answer, and like, I'm sure as we go, we'll get into all this stuff, but like, I always had, there was always something, if I could just do this, right, I'll be okay. Right. And that was the answer back then, was like, if I take this job in treatment and I start helping people and stuff like that, I'll feel okay again, which like, as you know, helps for a little bit. Right. But like can't become our own recovery. But that was my reason for being there. Right. And it's like kind of like another God moment that I wound up meeting you. We become really good friends. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, not for nothing. We had like a lot of deep talks, and like I feel like you helped me out, right? We remained friends. So yeah, really cool, really good time in my life, actually, looking back. Like one of the best jobs in the world. We had a lot of fun.
That was a great job. Yeah.
Ton of fun, man. I was a kid early in sobriety, working with a bunch of other essentially kids that are early in sobriety, mm-hmm. right? And like, God, man, like here I am supposed to be like this role model and like this staff, and like I'm coming in at midnight and I'm yanking these kids out of bed by their feet, and body beating them and wrestling them, and like I still have friends, like close friends, that I was their tech at mm-hmm. that treatment center that I've remained friends with over the years, right? Because we were the same age. I just happened to have a couple years, you know what I mean? I happened
at that time, how much time did you have sober?
God, looking back, you're saying you had 3 years.
I think I was coming up on 2.
Coming up on 2, so I probably had 4.
Yeah, which was huge, because like I remember like I was coming up on 2, and I was like, this is a huge milestone. Never been there before.
Yeah.
And then you're younger than me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got sober when?
Yeah, man.
Which I couldn't even fathom. I was like, you went to treatment one time?
No, multiple times. And we can get into that. Yeah.
But still, I was like, nothing. You're not doing nothing?
Yeah, nothing, dude.
All right, whatever. We'll get into all that.
Yeah.
But when did it start? So like when. Like, walk me through MP1, right? Walk me through, are you from Morel, or are you from, you're from Rollinghurst, right?
No. So I'm from Liberty Bell, which is Pennswood, mm-hmm. right? Which is just outside of Morel, right? So like far northeast is separated by playgrounds, obviously, right? Like kind of probably the same deal as where you're from. So I lived around the corner from Liberty Bell. So I really was from Liberty Bell. Mm-hmm. But as I got older, I hung out with dudes in Morel, and like it was just cool to claim, believe it or not, to claim you were from Morel, right? Like that was a thing. I got the tattoo and shit. Yeah, I thought it was cool. But yeah, man, normal, like far northeast Catholic, childhood, right? Like two parents are still together to this day. Older sister, she's 3 years older than me, went to Catholic grade school. You know, growing up, normal childhood, right? Like, was super into sports. I was very good at hockey. I was a big attention seeker, which you know, I learned that as I grow up, right, and as I get a little older and start doing some work on myself. But you know, growing up as a kid, I was a big attention seeker, and I never did well in school, right, because I was I mean, it's for as far back as I can remember, dude, just a knucklehead, you know, like just not a
Were you
bad
always like
kid.
the funny kid?
I guess.
Or at least like tried to be?
Try to be, like, yeah, just like super disrespectful without even realizing it. Like, always in and out of trouble, man. Like, but like always had good intentions, right? Like that, like deep down within me, like I knew I was like a good person. I just like acted out, right? And like you come to find out as you get older, right? And like shit starts getting real. It's like why you acted that way and stuff, right? Through like therapy, AA, whatever. But yeah, like really just like a normal childhood, right? Like dad had a full-time job, mom had a full-time job. Never wanted for anything. Dad and mom both drank every night, not to like the point of like, we can get into that later, but like normal, you know, with these Philly parents, like they just drank, like that was normal, right? Like it wasn't weird if I was, you know, 8, 9, 10, whatever, and like I could take a sip of beer, like that was like cool, you know what I mean? Not a big deal. But no, really like normal childhood. You know, dad took me to all my, you know, I played, I was very good at hockey, but I played for like the basketball team. I tried baseball one time, soccer as a kid, you know, like really overall pretty normal childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like it's different now, right? Because like it would be like taboo almost if like you saw like an 8-year-old taking a sip of beer.
Right.
But like, I mean, and I grew up in like in a really good house, but like it was the same thing with me.
Yeah. Different times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
listen, you want to talk about different times, dude. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but like, did your parents smoke growing up?
Yeah.
Did they smoke in the house? Dude. So we were at the dinner table, right? Yeah. And like, it's so like, that's not a thing anymore, but like we were at the dinner table in the house, dinner's on the table.
Yeah.
We're eating and they're just ripping cigs.
Yeah. So this is funny. I don't even think I've ever admitted this out loud, but even still to this day, dude, like, I can't eat food around an ashtray. So like if I go to like a friend, so if I'm somewhere and somebody smokes cigarettes, I got to put the ashtray out of sight or it fucks me up. Right. And like mom always smoked growing up. And it's crazy. I turned out to be like this vicious, crazy, like whatever, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, like that was the thing. I couldn't eat around cigarette smoke.
Dude, I just remember, I mean, we're going to go on a whole tangent, right? But I remember like, you know, walking to Applebee's and they were like smoking or smoking or non-smoking. And my mom, and usually always like either like my aunt or like one of her friends were like, smoking.
Yeah.
And it's like
why even ask, right?
Wild times, dude.
Yeah. I remember like the deli around the corner where I would like, you know, later on in life, like, you know, get people to buy me beer or blunts or whatever. You used to sit back there and just like smoke cigarettes. Like that was different times.
Yeah. Now they've almost like shunned smokers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, now we're puffing. Now we got the vapes.
And they're worse. I mean? They're 100% worse.
It's bad. It's bad, man.
And we could do a whole episode on how bad I think they really are, but like I still enjoy it way too much. But like I wake up with this thing on it's bad.
Yeah. When I FaceTime you,
it's always here.
You got the trap. I think you work your traps out just as like a vape.
I should trademark that. People don't know about that.
It's
like,
very good.
So I just put it right here.
It's very good. Now when people FaceTime, they're going to catch it. They're going to be like, this dude does hold his vape with his trap.
All right. So normal childhood for all things considered.
No
when did it, and I assume like it probably, so like much like myself, probably like you guys at keg parties, the whole nine. Like, did you start going off and like start to like get a reputation early on where they were like Foss is going this way and everybody else was just like just drinking and cool with drinking, or like how'd that
Sure.
Look?
Yeah. So I'll dive. So I had two groups of friends, right? I lived a vicious double life, right? Because I had like the older kids at the park, right? That like, so my sister was 3 years older, right? So I knew the bad kids that grew up with her, right? That are 3 years older than me. The kids that hung at the park or whatever, and you know, every neighborhood got them, whatever. And so I had that group of friends, right? And then I had like the Catholic school kids that still played sports and like did normal shit on the weekends. Go to the movies. So I didn't hang out with Butler growing up. We can get into that later. I started hanging out with him later on in life. But like I still had those normal friends where I would like go to the skating palace on the weekend and like skate, right? But like during the week, I'm up to park till like 11 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? And like, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, but like I had no curfew, dude. I ran rat. Like, I was out of pocket. I had no curfew, no nothing. Great parents, dude. Just like, I don't think they knew how to control me. You know what I mean? Which is like scary now being a parent. Like, I'm sure you can relate.
Again, different times. Like you were able to do that though.
True. Like
and
you couldn't let your kid go out now. It's scary world. You know
I
what
live
I mean?
on a cul-de-sac and like you know what I mean? If they're out of my sight, I'm like, where?
Full panic. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. But yeah, so you know, even in grade school, like I remember like in terms of like first drink and all that shit, I don't really know, right? But like I know that like I remember like one time in like 6th grade or something like that, like I was hanging at the park and like me and my shout out Tom Carter, me and one of my good buddies at the time, we went and we bought a nickel bag of weed. This was back when like you could buy nick bags and dime bags, right? Like our times. And we bought a nickel bag of weed and like we didn't know like what to do with it, right? So like we went down to the woods and we found a brown paper bag, right? Like from like a liquor bottle or whatever. Yeah. And we tried rolling the weed up in the brown paper. I'm like 6th grade, dude. Yeah. Right? It's like a Monday. Like the kids are like getting ready for soccer practice and I'm rolling pot in brown paper bags in the woods. And like we smoked it and like I don't even think I got high. Like we rolled around and like pretended like we were high or whatever. But like that's the shit I was doing at like a young age, right? Like I remember like I think when I got to like 7th grade is when I started to realize that like so backtrack a little bit, right? Like now looking back as like an adult and stuff like that, I always had that pit that I would fill, right, with like different things. And like once upon a time it was hockey, like I just mentioned, right? And then like you get into this and then you get into girls and like I'm just like can't get enough of whatever it is at the time, right? And I remember when I first started drinking, right? Like recreationally, whatever, right? And I couldn't get enough of like that feeling, right? Because like remember I told you like I love attention. Mm-hmm. So like now I can get drunk and like I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, so like we would go up to park like you know like weeknights like as a kid like 7th grade whatever, and like I would go get like 40s Hurricane. You know what I mean? Like and like with the older kids, right? And like I would be drinking 40s Hurricane at you know going to Catholic school the next morning, right? But like I'm drinking 40s Hurricane at the park at night. And looking
back, you were the man. You just didn't know you were about to burn your life to the ground.
No clue. Mm-hmm. No clue. So innocent, right? Like just having fun. And like my sister at this point's in high school, right? So like I'm going to like the keg parties on the weekend. None of my friends are doing this, by the way. Mm-hmm. I'm like the party trick. Like I'm the young kid. Like I want to impress people, whatever. Yeah. So that started probably like 6th, 7th grade, dude. Like drinking recreationally. You know what I mean? Like and just like you always hear, right? Like from the rip, it was like drink till you get, you know what I mean? Yeah. Drink for the effect, whatever. And then like around like 8th grade is when like I told you I smoked pot one time in like 6th grade, whatever. And like, I might have like hit, like I like older guys would like hand me a blunt. Like I'd like pretend to hit it, didn't know how to inhale or whatever. But like, I think I started smoking pot, like actually come like 8th grade is like when that started. No real issues in school, grade school wise, other than like, I was like, I don't even think they did like 4-track back then, but like whatever it is, brother, I was in it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, like they were like passing me because like they felt bad. You know what I mean? Like teachers would hand out tests, and we'll get into like high school. It's funny, like looking back. But teachers would like hand out tests, dude, and I would just like doodle on them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there was no filling, no test out, no homework.
Just came back as patterns, dude.
That's
every time.
it, dude. Like yeah, there was no. I remember I learned how to draw SpongeBob at some point in my life, and I would flip over tests and shit and just draw SpongeBob like smoking weed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, dude, listen, and even in high school too, like there was like 2nd track, there was like 3rd track, and then there was like me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's same deal.
And it's not because we're dumb. And this is like the truth of the matter, right? It's like, this is like my alcoholism. I just didn't know it at the time. It's like, I just don't care about anything other than like, I don't want to be in school.
Like where are we at?
I don't want to be in school. Yeah, so it's like,
deal.
I'm not going to even act like I care. The weird thing about me is like, and I don't know if you ever did this, but like the beginning of the school year, I'm like an ace for like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then like, it's just all avalanche. Like, I don't even care.
Yeah. So for me, different experience, right? Like beginning of school year, like I'll never forget, Archbishop O'Brien right next. So I went to St. Martha's and, Archbishop O'Brien's next door. Right. And like parents paid a ton of money, you know what I mean? Back then to send me there. And, like I'm smoking pot before school, first day of school. You know what I mean? Out of it, like I'm making tennies. I'm at this point, like kids are just starting to like maybe drink on the weekends. I'm already like smoking facials before school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By myself. And, yeah, like first day, like I just didn't care. Like there was I was already, which I didn't know at the time, but I was already so far on my way that like it was too late, man. Like I was hanging out with dudes that like didn't go to school. Like they were coming in from jail. You know what I mean? And like,
as a freshman,
like as a kid. And, yeah, so I go to Archbishop O'Brien and, they got rules, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, like
pretty strict rules. Yeah.
Very strict. And, I didn't, like to follow those and, wasn't like a super bad kid yet. Like I told you, like I would like crave attention and do knucklehead stuff, but like I wasn't like doing nothing really that crazy, smoking a little weed, whatever. And I think like maybe like 2 months, maybe 3 months into this school, and I just told Johnny Butler, and shout out Johnny Butler. I just told them the other day, we were laughing about it. I never even had a locker, dude, at Ryan, right?
Really?
Because you do orientation, you get the locker and stuff. I forgot where my locker was at. So like,
so you just never, you know,
brother,
what I mean?
I had no books. I had no locker.
Yeah.
I would just show up, who's smoking before school, because I want in, and like I'm just there. You know what I mean? And like I had multiple classes where I would show up. My desk was in the hallway. You know, because like I would, like I remember this one class I had. I would show up, and the first thing I would do, I would walk in and steal a pack of chalk off the. I forget the lady's name, man. Nice lady too. It's a shame, but I'd steal a pack of chalk, and I would sit. She would drink hot tea, and I would sit in the back of the class and break the chalk and try making them drink every. So like every time she turned around, chalk would just hit the. You know what I mean? And like that's just the type of weird shit I did. Like, and you know, people thought it was funny. I thought I was high. I thought it was funny, but like not realizing that like I'm playing myself.
Yeah.
So that lasted like I think like I made it almost 4 months in that school before they told me like, listen, buddy.
Yeah, Ryan wasn't having it.
Nah.
Shout out Archbishop Ryan for having high standards.
Great school, man. And so from there, where do I go from there? From Ryan, I get into Northeast Prep on Common Ave.
Okay.
Yeah, are you familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, like that school was we got smoke breaks. How old were you as a freshman? 15?
15, 16, yeah.
I'm smoking pot.
I was 16. So,
okay, I'm smoking pot on break. You know what I mean? Out front of the school.
Well,
like there was no hiding.
Doing whatever they could, yeah. Because these kids were also coming out of like juvenile like detention.
It was
all
all
stuff, right?
Yeah. So it was like it wasn't like an alternative. I don't even know what you would call it. So it was you basically paid to get a diploma. It was you graduated in 2 years, and it was 4 hours a day, by the way.
Oh wow.
4 hours a day, 2 years, and you get a diploma.
Tell me you couldn't even do that.
I mean, funny.
It was a struggle.
It was so I had to take 2 buses. I had to take the 20 bus down to Common Ave, and then like I forget the bus, whatever, and it would shoot down Common Ave. It was like I had to wake up super early. I was not responsible for nothing like that. Like responsible enough for nothing like that. You know what I mean? But again, same deal. I would go there to show up to see like what's what. You know what I mean? Like who's got what are we doing? Everything was a scheme at this point, right? And I don't even know it at the time. And you know, I met a bunch of kids that were doing the same thing that I like to do. These were kids coming from like Catholic schools that got kicked out. You know what I mean? They were the same type of kids as me. Now we're all together. Now I'm learning new shit, right? I get introduced to pills. I remember the first pill I ever did was a Perk 5, a 512. Is that what they were? And we broke it up in a blunt and smoked it. I don't even think it does anything. I'm not even sure. But like at the time, it was like cool, you know,
innovative. Yeah,
yeah. And so that's how I got into pills. Dude, was at that school freshman year.
And I'm sure it didn't get any better. I mean, if you're anything like me, like once like I got introduced to that, like it was all bets were off.
Done deal.
And I didn't know it at the time. Yeah, I mean, I literally just was like, I honestly thought that. And hopefully, like at some point, like during this whole podcast thing, that like people start to like interact a little bit more. But like, I thought the pills were better than the weed. I really did.
Oh yeah.
Not in the sense of like the effect was better. Like I thought that like it was less harmful because it didn't smell. Nobody knew that I was on them.
Yeah.
I could do them and get away with it. Right?
Nice and quick. Nobody knew. It was like clean.
Yeah. And really, it was like. I was judging all these kids for like being potheads and whatnot. I'm like, no, I'm literally ruining my life.
Yeah, with no clue at all. But yeah, so that again, same deal, right? That lasted like a few months, and it wasn't. I don't think you can get kicked out of that school, right? But like, I just wasn't having it. The bus thing, the whatever, right? And I lasted like a couple months there, and you know, they got me into to George Washington. I had a couple, that's what it was. I had a couple friends. So at this point, people are starting to catch up, right? Like dudes I grew up with are starting to like, they're getting kicked out of school and shit now, right? Like towards the end of the year or whatever. And they're going to Washington from Ryan. And I'm like, I got to get over there with the boys, you know? So that's where I landed the end of freshman year.
That was all just freshman year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It gets weird.
All right, well, we're going to have to jump around then, dude, because if that's just freshman year, I thought we were going through your whole high school career right here.
Nah, so I'll make it short. So I end up at Washington. I'm suspended the first day. You know, literally the first day of school, I got suspended. You know, it's all, again, same deal. Kids doing the same shit that I like to do, right? Everybody's meeting at the gas station before. At this point, I'm like selling pot, whatever. You know, and like, and again, like I don't have a pill habit yet, but like now I know about pills. So now it's like, as you know, right? Like
And they were
anything I
everywhere
can
back then.
do,
Yep.
right? Exactly. Anything I can do to get out of myself. So like now there's these like little things I can eat or sniff. I wasn't sniffing anything yet, actually. I don't think. But yeah, so that went on a little bit, and I essentially dropped out of school, going to Washington. And what they did was, because I was young, we're at like I maybe like I think I finished the year out there, and then like started 10th year or 10th grade, and they were like basically like I guess they got together with my parents and they decided there was this place called Phase 4. And Butler crushes me for this because this is so funny. It was in Franklin Mills Mall, right? And like and like kids would go there to play like video games and shit. They had like the fake helicopter simulator and shit. And I'm in here going to school, dude. I wasn't doing shit, but like I was supposed to be going to school. You know what I mean? And that was the same deal, dude. Like 2 years you graduate. Yeah.
Yeah. So they literally tried to separate you from everybody else. And they were like, here, we're going to set you up for this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They meant well. They tried.
They tried. Mom and dad were always trying to look out, always wanted what was best for me. You know what I mean? They gave me great advice. I just wasn't hearing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think any of us were really were at that point.
Nah, no shot. No shot.
Whatever. So high school was horrible, right? Or it was great. Well, however you look at it, it was either great or horrible, but like on paper it didn't look great.
No, because it got a lot deeper than that, right?
Yeah.
That was like, then I got locked up. I got hit with a bunch of felony charges as like a 16-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm getting like tattoos. Now I'm getting into like I think I'm like fucking Pablo. You know what I mean? Like now I'm like the man, you know, because now I got locked up. And, you know, like that was like a whole thing, dude, like a bunch of like weird trauma stuff with that, like realizing now, looking back, right? Like some whatever, right? And, I dropped out of school after the Phase 4 thing didn't last for like a couple months. This is all within 2 years of high school, right? This is like I'm on school number 3, right? Now I'm locked up. I didn't get locked up for a long time. It was my first offense, but it was like a bunch of felony charges. And like so we skipped around a little bit, right? But like at this point I'm eating a ton of Xanax, right? Like a ton, like a really sick amount. As a young kid,
Hard
like
time.
Yeah. And that's what went up, obviously, as you know, get me arrested. And so I dropped out of school and completely dropped out of school at this point, right? And I got a full-blown drug habit, right? I'm getting into the perk 30s or whatever, and you know, snorting what oxy 80s were like just like kind of on their way out, right? Like I remember I did a couple of them, but like they were on their way out. Now 30s were around, right? But like I have like this vicious, like I have to maintain this perk habit because I'll be sick, but also the Xannies, which I didn't know I was addicted to.
Even worse.
Right. But I'm eating those because I like to not care, right? I like to not feel. And like when you, as you know, you take a couple of those, you're like, you're golden, right? Yeah. And I wound up, they raided my parents' house, right? So this is like, God, I'm probably 17 now, right? So I drop out of school, get locked up at 16, right? Now I'm like 17. Now I'm like a full-blown perk head, right? And I'm selling perk 30s. And they grab me up at the playground or whatever. I'm hanging at the park, and they're basically like, listen, man, like we've been watching you. You got 2 options. Like we're either taking you in, we're getting a search warrant, we're gonna like knock your parents' walls down, or you can take us to your house right now and like knock on the door and they can sign and we'll come in and, you know, show us where everything's at. And like I'm getting front at perk 30s to sell them to support my habit at this point, right? I'm not like a kingpin. And so I'm like, all right, man, like, yeah, no problem. I've been through this before. I just was in jail not that long ago. I'm a kid. They're gonna call my parents, they're gonna come pick me up. It's no big deal, right? Like I need a cigarette. Like that's how I'm thinking, right? Like, let me get a cigarette. So I take them to the house, dude, and like I'm mad at them, right? Like such a victim, dude. Like you remember the deal, right? Like such a victim, dude. Just like they fucked my whole day up, whatever, right? And we get to my parents' house, and like I wound up having like 30 some pills or whatever, right? But like mind you, I just got charged with 9 felonies not that long ago at this point, right? Now I'm like 17 or something like that, right? Or 16 turning 17, right? And like, you know, I show up and like I'm waiting. I'm like, keep telling them like when my parents come to get me. Next thing you know, like a day goes by. I'm still at the 15th, and they're like, you're not going home, dude. Like we're sending you down to the youth study center, which is like, I don't know if you experienced that, but it's like basically maximum security for like kids, right? Yeah. And like I'm not cut out for any of that stuff, right? If you would have asked me back then, I'd have told you like, yeah, fuck. But like really, like I'm a baby, right? Like I'm like crying myself to sleep and shit. And so I got in there for a little bit or whatever, and they let me out on a ankle monitor. And the deal was when I showed up to, so I had a choice. I could either took that to court and tried fighting it, right? But they were trying to take my parents' house. They sent her like a big thing in the mail, basically saying like the state, whatever, they were going to take my parents' house, right? Because I'm selling drugs out of it. And it was either fight the case or sign up for drug court as a kid, right? And obviously, right, they're telling me this as I'm in the youth, in the youth study center seeing the master, the person you see before the judge or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like I'll sign get me out of here, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and so I signed up for drug court, and the first day I go in, the judge is like, well, where do you go to school? And I'm like, I dropped out. Like, funny enough, a couple of years, I don't do well at school. I'm dropped out. And he's like, no, you're not. And they sent me to that school on Street Road, which was De La Salle, which that was like the school for like bad kids. I had like the ankle monitor on, and like that was like, I got suspended. They locked me up. That was like, and I'm sober, so I'm on house arrest for 2 years at this point, right? Like I went through it. We skipped around.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know that you. I mean, essentially, like we're kind of forced into sobriety for a little bit.
Oh yeah, for 2 years. But
I didn't know.
But I have a sister at this time who, I don't want to put her business out there, but she's not, an angel, right? And like she's bringing, so I'm doing whatever I can do throughout that time. Do you remember when they sold K2 at the before K2 was like you got naked and shit, but like back when K2 was like you bought it at 7-Eleven, I was smoking that. I was sniffing Suboxone because I was getting drug tested a lot.
Isn't it crazy? Right, because I know that we're talking, and this is like definitely more than we usually talk about, like the actual using side of it. But like, I think it's good to like kind of like actually really talk about it because I don't talk much about it on here. So if anybody had any doubts, we really did this. Not that really matters, but at the end of the day, dude, like I remember, buying like it was Scooby snacks, right? It was the Spice, it was the K2, and I remember like I had been to treatment maybe like 2 or 3 times up until this point, and I tried to convince my mom that like this was okay. It was not weed, so like you know what I mean. It smells horrible, and I was like smoking that stuff like to the head, full blunts in my room by myself, completely manic. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like trying to show her the back of this like packet that I got from
like, Mom, it's okay. I got that Sev.
And like none of it's okay, right? Like they talk about like in sobriety, right? Like the abnormal becoming normal. Like that's what, like, I can't believe that I actually lived that life, but like I did. And I have no doubt that I would do it again. If like, God forbid I were to pick up, like I'm not above any of that.
No. And that's a crazy thought, right? With like having some years, right? Like if you think about, God, man, like what it would be like, right? To like, I don't even want to go there, but like, yeah, like I'm one away, and like, thank God. So I've done a lot of weird shit in sobriety, and we can get into that, right? Like I have not been a great, whatever. But like I've always known that like I am one, not even one drink. I'm like one bad decision away from like ruining not only my life, but like a lot of people's lives. Yeah. Right. But yeah, man. So I wound up going to that school, right? And I'm on house arrest, like I said, and I'm not actually sober because I have no idea what AA is. I believe it or not, I don't even think I had an actual drug problem. I thought I was like a kid, and like everyone I grow up with, for the most part, besides like the normal, there's not many of them. Most of them from my neighborhood are either dead, in jail, or like sober, or still out there. You know what I mean? And so I thought it was normal, right? And I guess I'm semi sober, right? Like I don't have a physical dependency on anything at this point for 2 years straight, right? Like anytime I can, if they drug tested me on a Tuesday night, I was throwing up because I don't know if you've done, I don't want to get too much into drugs, right? But like I got out of myself any way I could throughout that 2 years,
doing whatever
right?
You could. Yeah.
Sure. And the second I completed drug court, which is like not a very easy thing to do, right? There's like a lot of very, very tough, right? Like I told you, like I got suspended from school, they locked me up. Like they did not mess around at all. There was no room there was no mistakes, right? And, like as a drug addict, I completed somehow. And, the first day I got off, dude, school was out, obviously, right? Like I ain't done with that. And, my buddy, as I got home from court, my buddy was waiting across the street, and I just like I picked right back up. Like I never, you know what I mean? Like had everything and that was it, dude. I was off the races again.
It's, and I would really like be interested to know like how many people actually, cause like drug court works. Right. Like it absolutely, if you look at it from like a harm reduction standpoint, it will keep somebody on the straight and narrow. I mean, it's either that or you're going to jail. Right. Yeah. So people will like stay away from it. But like, I remember a good buddy of mine, he's doing great today. Right. Lives in Florida. But like, I remember I was struggling and he wasn't, right. He was on drug court. He was like adhering to the drug court. And this guy like hung out with like Jake and I. Right. So it was like, if anybody was not going to get sober, it was him, at this time. Right. And he completed like drug court, and it was like I was like, there's no way this dude just graduated.
Yeah. Graduated. Yeah.
And then, not even 8 hours later, you know, I remember hearing the news that like he like used, and I was like, what, dude? And that was like my first real experience of like, nothing's going to keep me
This
sober.
is real. This is real.
I mean?
Yeah.
If that stuff could have kept me sober, my mom crying at like the thought of like me, like my mom catching me army crawling in her bedroom, you know what I mean? Like that would have kept me sober, you know?
I feel like that's not talked about enough, but like what a helpless, scary feeling, dude, when you finally do come to the realization that like nobody's coming to save you and this is on you. And there is no, because I vividly, and I thank God I don't forget that feeling. And I'm like getting chills thinking about it. I vividly remember thinking like, there's no way out. Like, this is it. Like, there is no, like maybe I can like do like maintenance or, you know, like I've tried every which mixture and way and dude, but like there was no way that I was going to be able to lead a life drug and alcohol free. It was just I was done.
Dude, I remember being in probably my 4th, 5th treatment center and coming to grips with it. Right. I was like, this is my life. Yeah. Like, I don't know why I've been dealt this hand of cards. I don't know why, for all things considered, like I grew up with like loving parents, right? I know what's right and wrong. I have morals and values, but like I just go into treatment every couple months and it's like, okay, like this is it. And the truth of the matter is like, I just didn't want to do anything. Like I wanted to do like some stuff. I wanted to do the stuff that like, if you saw me going to meetings and you were going to give me a pat on the back, then I thought I was doing okay. But I didn't want to do any like real work behind closed doors.
No.
But I do remember that where I was like, this is it. This is it. I'm a Catholic school kid. And the craziest thing is like, even when I was like going in whatever number time treatment that was, my first thought was not like, I can't believe this is my life. My first thought was like, well, at least it's not double digits.
Yeah.
You know, turns out you get the double digits too. But whatever, we'll keep going on tangents like that.
Yeah.
So at some point you got sober.
Yeah. Believe it or not. Yeah.
So what did that look like? Right. So like you kind of like burnt your life to the ground before it even started.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. And it's so crazy looking back. Right. And like people joke because I got sober a month before my 20th birthday. Right. Yeah. My sober date, I was 19 years old. And people joke and be like, like you got another one in you. Like you're not a real, you know, and like, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, like, cause I never even had a legal sip of alcohol. Never drank a beer in a bar. You know what I mean? Like by the time people started doing the actual like partying on the weekend, dude, I was showing up trying to steal shit out of their mom's room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was already way gone, dude.
Yep.
So like I never went through that real part. My party phase was like, it was like a little bit of drinking and then it was straight to drugs.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I got sober super young and, you know, I did a couple different, like I went to my first treatment center ever. My first treatment center ever was Miramont. I was 18 years old. And there was always a reason why I ended up in treatment.
Yep.
It was never like today's the day, I can't wait, right? Like bad shit had to happen. And then it was like, well, look, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to treatment, right? And my first one was Miramont, obviously didn't do nothing, right? And then like I was on maintenance for forever and I would just like sell them. Like I'll tell a quick, you know, one of my stints in sobriety or one of my tries at sobriety was, and my parents, they know I'm a full-blown, I mean, we got police knocking the door down, right? Like they know I'm a full-blown drug addict. And one of the things was I was on Suboxone. I was getting prescribed Suboxone and I would just sell them, right? And it got to the point where my mom would leave me one a day and I'd hold on to that thing. I didn't care how sick I was. I'd hold on to that thing until I could sell it.
Yep.
And I'd be scheming and wheeling and dealing the whole day. You know what I mean? And we were going to go on a family vacation to Florida to my aunt's house down by Cocoa Beach. And I was going to get sober and I was going to take Suboxone. And like, not saying Suboxone isn't sober, right? But like, I couldn't even do that. I could not do just maintenance. Like I was always mixing and matching and doing weird shit. And so I'm going to give it a real try. And we're going down to Florida and we drove down there as a family, me, my sister, my mom, my dad. And I think like 3 days into it, I stole all the Suboxone out of my mom's purse. I sold them and I hopped on a Greyhound back to Philly.
Oh my God. I mean, like funny to think parents, about. Yeah, dude, they probably were like, dude.
Yeah. I was like 16, 17 or something.
Yeah. Dude. And like, listen, it's a really interesting point with the whole maintenance and stuff like that, because I had my own preconceived idea, right? Because I went through it and I like was prescribed it and like, but like my experience with it is a little jaded, right? Where like there was no oversight. It was literally like, yo, you're going to go to this doctor, right? They give you your prescription and then that was it.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, like I would not adhere to like what was supposed to be in my urine.
Mm-hmm.
And they would still give it to me, right? But like, I mean, we all did the same stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna get into it, and I'm sure you're gonna ask me, because obviously I've been sober, a long time, and I've done a lot of stints away from AA, and first getting sober, I was told like if you did steroids, if you were on maintenance, I don't care if you took a vitamin that was like a weird vitamin at night, you weren't sober. Like that's the dudes I got sober around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept that mindset for a long time, right? And like through not going to AA, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, right? Or times have changed, right? I'm actually like a super, I don't want to say like an advocate for maintenance, right? But like whatever we can give somebody, right, that will clear their mind enough to maybe hear something or feel something and have another chance at life, right? While they're still breathing, because like, let's face it, like people weren't that when I was doing heroin, you didn't hear people dying.
It was heroin,
right? It was heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was very rare for anybody to be like, we got a Narcan. Like it was like that was not a thing, right? It was very rare, and people are dying now. So like I have become like more of an advocate for it, and like I think to each their own, and I truly believe that, right? Like when somebody tells me about somebody like messing around or doing weird shit in sobriety, like I don't want to say I'm not judgmental because I definitely fall short, but like one of my first questions, at least I like to think is like, are they happy, right?
Furthermore, who am I to even judge?
Sure.
Right. I mean, think about how much of a struggle someone must be in to act any type of way. Right. And we won't get like too into like either one of our shit. Right. But like, there's definitely been times in my sobriety, probably times in yours where it's like, I was like, literally, I probably needed a drink. You know what I mean? Because I was doing everything that like you just shouldn't do in recovery. Right.
Yeah, man. I could go on. God, dude, you'd run out of storage, These
are big carts.
You got the big ones?
We got the big carts in there.
I wouldn't put that past you.
But all right, so yeah, before we go down that whole thing, so you went down to Florida.
I did, right? Yeah. Well, so what winds up happening is right through like a couple. I've been to treatment 4 times, and the last one was Livingren. And I'm going to share this on the podcast. And I actually thought about this on the way here because I knew you would ask me about like what it was like first getting sober, right? Obviously, and I go to detox again with no real plan to stay sober. I'm 19 years old, dude. I'm a kid. And I just know I can't do heroin anymore, right? Like that I know for sure. And I go to treatment for whatever reason. Something bad happened. I probably stole something, sold something, ran out of something, burned a bridge, whatever. And end up at the Livingren for like the second or third time. And, I'm like 4 days into it, and they my counselor pulls me into the office. It wasn't even my counselor. It was like the clinical director. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. A woman pulled me into an office and was like, hey, like, you got to talk to your dad. And my mom tried killing herself while I was in treatment. And she slit her wrist real bad. And it's funny, man. I've been sober a long time. We haven't really spoke much of that. But obviously, right, like how traumatizing. And I wish that I could tell you. Were you
able to feel that when you were in it?
So I don't think I could ever feel anything.
Yeah.
And like, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that, like, I still struggle with that today. Like that I'm like still kind of numb to like a lot of things, right? Like I'm almost, it's funny, man. I go through phases, but, yeah, like obviously, dude, like traumatizing, right? Like, 19-year-old kid. And like, they tell me my mom basically, and like, obvious, like the type of person I am at the time, I like punched a hole in the wall and like threw a bunch of shit. And they're like, you're not allowed back.
Well, it's also the only way you knew how to really handle something.
I had no coping, like zero, dude. Right. So, they kicked me out. Right. And, but I'm going to stay sober because whatever. And sober for me at the time was not to say maintenance isn't sober, but like that was real sobriety back then. Right. Like I didn't really know way. I knew no other way. I did not know how to wake up and not put a substance in my body a day at a time. It was impossible. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't even know whatever, man. Right. Like there was no way. So, I get out and I'm eating Suboxone and I'm prescribed them and I'm taking them out as prescribed. And, I get a message, from a childhood friend of mine who's no longer here. God rest his soul. And, he's like, hey man, I'm in Florida. I think it was MySpace back then. He's like, hey man, I'm in Florida and, I'm in sober living and it's really nice and this and that. And, I think you'd really like it. And, for whatever reason, like call it a God moment, whatever. But like, I was like, yeah, man, like, I would love to come. He was like inviting me basically, like saying like, why don't you try to come? And I was like, I don't even know where to start. And he was like, well, I'll have my mom call your mom. And I'm like, bet, here's the number, right? And again, don't know why I did that because like I had no real intention on doing anything. And also keep in mind, this is a big thing too, right? Like I was such a homebody. I wouldn't sleep at friends' houses growing up. Like I would have to like call my mom to come pick me up at like 1 o'clock in the morning because I was so afraid to be away from home. Yeah.
Okay.
Weird to admit out loud.
Yeah.
But like that was a very real thing for me, dude. I wouldn't go on like vacations with other people's families because I was too afraid to sleep away from home. I don't know what that is, or maybe I can find out through therapy later on. I don't struggle with it anymore, but that was a thing for me. And so like to even consider going to Florida alone, dude, right? Like I'm a 19-year-old, I'm a fucking essentially a man, but like I'm not, right? And so my mom calls him and whatever, and that's how I end up in Florida. So yeah, I wound up shooting down to Florida and again on maintenance. And while I'm there, I get into this recovery house down there, and you know, I'm on Suboxone maybe 20 or so days, and the recovery house knows that I just got out of detox, so they know Suboxone's in my system, but I'm supposed to start peeing clean, right? Because I just left detox, right? So like it's supposed to fade, obviously, right? And I was walking home from the beach one day, man, and I had whatever I had on me, a bunch of strips, and I don't know, man. They were taking us to AA meetings down there. I was like a weekend, and first time really having like a real introduction to AA. I've been before at this point, but like nothing like serious or for myself, and it was always for like, you know, weird reasons. And I don't know, something came over me, and I just decided like this is it. And I, you know, for once in my life, I threw them all down the sewer, and I just laid in that recovery house bed and went through it, dude. And they were taking us to AA every day, you know what I mean? And that lasted maybe, I don't know, I think I want to say I picked up a 60-day coin down there. My first real 60 days ever sober off of anything, like from like as far back as I can remember, right? Because I started young, and that same kid that got me down there, him and I start doing what we do down there together, you know what I mean? And you know, I kicked out of a couple places down there and cost my parents a ton of money, and eventually they paid like a lump sum to get me in like this more strict sober living. It was a PHP, which I didn't know at the time, and I go there, and I'm there for like a week, and I decide I'm gonna get one more in, and I have my mind made up, right? And again, right, so I got a sponsor down there. I am doing AA, right, for, I don't want to say for the wrong reasons, but like I really didn't have a choice, right? Like I would go to meetings, and like I would listen to people, and they would use these big words and read these quotes out of these books and stuff like that, and like I just knew I didn't want to do heroin anymore, right? Like I wasn't really hearing anything they were saying. I don't think I was capable, to be honest, looking back. And so I'm gonna get one more in, and you know, I'm praying. My sponsor's telling me like, hey, like he told me this trick, and like it was at the time I was smoking cigarettes, and he was like, before you go to bed at night, put your cigarettes under your bed, and it'll remind you to hit your knees, right? And then first thing in the morning, what do we go to smoke a cigarette, right? And he's like, it'll remind you to hit your knees. So I was forming a relationship with a higher power at this point, right? And I told you I had that hiccup. I end up back in this place, and I'm there for like, I don't know, I'm sober maybe 2 weeks at the time or whatever, and like I'm gonna get one more in. But I'm praying, and I'm like trying AA, and I don't want to do it, but I've already made up my mind, and like it's on me, right? Like I got no choice. And God, it's like it's so crazy looking back, thinking on it. And so I wind up we bought them. I paid for them, and the kid had them or whatever, and he was my, you know, down there it's set up like Wildwood hotels. They picture a Wildwood hotel with the pool in the middle. That's like what the treatment centers look like, right? And he's my neighbor. He's right next door, and he's in the bathroom doing one, and he was supposed to set it all for me. I was going to go and do it after him, and there was another kid there that was begging me for it because we bought them in the morning, and he was begging me for mine all day. And obviously I had my mind made up, like you ain't get my shit, dude. And something came over me, dude. And like when he went in his room, I went back in my room, and I hit my knees, and I was like bawling, crying on my knees, like I don't want to do this, but like please, like if you're real. I don't know what the prayer looked like. It's so long ago, but like I vividly remember crying and fucking looking up out the balcony. And something came over me, dude, and I walked next door, and I just said, yo, it's yours. Right? Like, I already paid for it and everything, but it's yours. Take it, right? And obviously he's like, yeah, I can't wait, whatever. And dude, I went back in my room, and that was the first time in my life, like you want to talk about like a high. When that was gone and it was no longer an option, there was no dude I could call like, yo, bring another one. I'm in Florida, right? Like I have no money. I don't know anybody. It was gone. There was no getting any more, right? And dude, like that high, like that next morning and that night. And I remember I walked to the gas station the next morning by myself, and I got a bacon, egg, and cheese, dude. And like nobody could tell me nothing. You know, like I was just walking chest out, head high, like I got this. It was like the first time in my life I've said no to a drug, right? Yeah. And I think that was like the moment. I don't want to say it was my last real obsession, right? Like knock on wood, thank God, whatever. But dude, that was like the first time in my life where I actually, it hit me like, oh my God, I want to do this. I want to stay sober. I don't want to do this anymore. And I can do this. Right. And I got a chance. And that was like, you didn't have to show me. I was like, thank you. I got you. I'm in AA heavy. Dude, I never looked back, dude, you know?
And you were 19.
Well, I was 20 at this point.
20.
Yeah. So I got sober, May 14th, 2013. And I turned 20, June 10th, 2013. So I was sober at 19 for a month. So I do say I got sober at 19 because I did.
Well, you did. Right? You absolutely did.
I did.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, like I was going to treatment, you know what I mean? Like left and right when I was that age, but like I didn't get sober until I was 23.
Right.
You know, and I thought that was late for how many times I went to treatment and whatnot.
So I was, dude, like we skipped around a lot, but like my sister met a dude that was like, you know, when I was like 16 or something like that, 17. And, you know, I told you like the whole drug case thing and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but like he was heavy down the way, right? Like he was in it. And we would boost Acme's, right? Like we would go in and like steal. So like I was doing out of pocket crazy stuff from like a young age, right? I don't want to say, obviously everybody's bottom's different, right? But like I put myself and my family and the people around, I did a lot of damage in a little bit of time, you know? And obviously at 19, right? Like again, and I'll say, I knew I couldn't do heroin. I knew I couldn't sniff things up my nose, but like smoke a little weed on the weekend, maybe drink a little bit. That's cool, right? Like I don't have a problem with that stuff. And obviously through AA and through work on myself, like I find out like I do actually have a problem with that stuff. But like even coming home from Florida, I don't think I had a real plan to not like casually drink. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I don't know. I wish I had the answer when people ask that question, right? Like I wish I could.
Well, the truth is this, right? And you said it, but it's my story too. It's like I literally introduced my mom and my grandparents to a life they never knew even existed, dude.
Yeah.
I literally I was holding them hostage in their own house. They were like walking on eggshells around me because like I was just like a loose cannon. Because I was either just withdrawing or I was high or like I was trying to get one more or I was scheming. And it's like 2-3 years prior, they were like all happy because I was a Catholic school student, whatever. And next thing you know, I'm like stealing gold, you know?
God. How horrifying, like as a parent now, right? Like it's like,
and you want to talk about like the people that, and I've said it and I brought it up a few times on previous episodes where it's like people, you know, that age old tale where it's like, it's a choice. It's like, you really think I wanted to do that to my family?
Yeah, ain't that crazy?
And we alluded to it. Like we were both raised with morals and values. We know what's right and wrong. And like, I was army crawling.
Yeah.
On my mother's bedroom floor.
Yeah.
To get her purse. It got to a point where my mom slept with her purse under her pillow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it still didn't divert me from at least trying to get it. You know, like that's not okay. That's not normal. That's not a choice.
So towards the end, and I share this, you know, at AA, whatever, with people, and I never really hear this from anybody else. And like, it's kind of funny looking back. Obviously, none of this shit is a joke, right? But like, we can make light of some of this stuff now. And I used to walk around my parents' house when I found out what Craigslist was and take pictures of their decorations and post them up for sale. I'm talking like pictures, vases, and like
anything you could do.
You know, and the guys we were with the other night, I was just telling them the story, and you know, I remember again, like when I found out what Craigslist was and stuff like that. I remember one time I was coming home from the park, and this lady had or a guy or whoever it was, I don't know who lived there. They had it was like an angel statue on their front lawn, and it was a little angel guy, like a stone figure with like an angel girl standing on his back, and she was blowing water out into a fountain. I posted that thing up on Craigslist, right? So like about 2 hours goes by, I get a phone call, right? And the guy's like interested in it. I'm like, yeah, meet me here. I give them the address, right? I go sit out in one of these people's house. This pickup truck full. I'm like backing them in and shit. I'm like, yeah, right here. I'm unplugging the thing, dude. I'm loading up.
My God.
Like that's the kind of shit I was doing, dude.
Yeah.
Like
and that's normal.
That was another Tuesday, dude. Like that was like, cause I had already sold, like people talk about like I had already done like that dude that I told you my sister was dating. Like he already I was hip to all the schemes at a young age, right? But yeah, enough of that. I come in from Florida with just shy of 90 days sober, right? 20 years old, right? I don't know a single soul in the world that is not at least, I told you I live that double life. So I do have good friends, right? That are still great friends to this day. But but nobody knows nothing about recovery, right? And thank God, shout out CJ Orr, man. Like, guy really, I've told him before, but like he really did. He saved my life. And you know, day one, I get home and he comes and picks me up and takes me to an AA meeting, right? And like I said, I was doing AA in Florida, but now I'm like introduced to like a new AA up here, and I'm like seeing neighborhood dudes, like older dudes. There was nobody really my age. Yeah, man, I just got plugged. They plugged me in, like they scooped me up and plugged me in, and like that's what AA like truly is. And like again, like times have. So I'm back in AA now, right? As you know, and it's changed. Like shit's different, right? And like we're old, like whatever, right? Like shit's different. But like back when I got sober, it was like still like Levitan. Like I don't know if like you went. Oh, you did. You went through this whole phase. Like I was hanging out. You know, it was just good to be alive, man. Like there wasn't, you know, like I was doing steps and I was doing this and I was doing that and I wasn't stealing and I wasn't living a crazy life. But like
and it was a fashion show, dude.
Oh, a vicious fashion show.
I mean, like listen, I'm almost 10 years sober, God willing, right? Like I wouldn't be caught dead at 90 days sober with these busted vans.
Yeah, no shot. I was actually judging you when I.
But it's like, but like you get it to an extent, right? Because like I'm a head case too, right? Where it's like there's times where it's like I just don't care. Yeah. Like what? Yeah. You know?
Yeah. We're old, man.
I mean, we are getting old.
Yeah,
we absolutely are getting old.
Yeah.
All right. So CJ were plugged you in, right?
Plugs me in, man.
They rallied around you. When did I meet you?
They forced me,
How old were you when we were working there?
So we're 19 or 23, maybe. I don't know. Right? That makes sense?
Yeah. Because how old
8 years ago?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I guess like what? Fast forward 3 years later.
Yeah, I had like 4 years sober. You had like 3 or whatever it was, or 2.
Well, like let's like briefly go through that before we get like, because I don't even know where we're at time wise. We gotta
what?
We gotta, you know what I mean? We gotta keep it moving here. We're at like 52 minutes already.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You can cut a lot of it out probably.
I try not to because it's real. But like it's a great moment for like, yo, listen, if you like what we're saying, smash that like button.
Yeah.
I absolutely think it's the corniest thing ever, dude.
Hit it up, dude.
I think it's the corniest thing ever, man.
No, it's really cool. I want to say that too before you go on, is that like what you're doing is actually like super cool, right? And like I know we didn't get too much into like recovery stuff yet. And like I went through some weird things or whatever, but you know, if we say one thing that helps one person, I just think it's super cool. Like I know somebody mentioned to you that like, you know, whatever. I don't want to say it on the air, so to speak, but like you're helping people, dude, and like this is really cool.
That was a cool moment the other day.
That was I felt that for you.
Yeah, it definitely was a cool moment. Because like listen, I get all in my head, right? I'm like, you know, it's like, what am I doing? Like, do people? But at the end of the day, like I can't really think or pay too much mind into like my own insecurities and like thinking that like like this isn't making it. Like I wish there was something like this where I could have like related to somebody back in the day where it's like, yo, these guys are just like me.
Yeah,
you know, and like they're saying they're sober for like longer than like a couple of years. You know what I mean? They've built lives for themselves. Yeah. Like you were 19, 20 when you got sober, right? I was 23. Like maturity wise, we were probably the same person, right? Like I didn't, like I said it before, but like I didn't know what like bills were. I knew of them. I knew of the idea, but I didn't know how to like pay them. I didn't know how to like get something in my name. You know, my first like real attempt at being an adult was like paying weekly rent at a recovery house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Changed my life.
Right. Which I think is like a necessity. Yeah.
Fought it tooth and nail when I was there. But once I got there, I was like, this is the best time of my life.
Yeah. When I got to Florida, I never did a dish ever. I never cleaned a dish in my entire life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is crazy. Where were we at? Where were you?
I was saying, smash that like button. We're on YouTube, Pain with a Purpose Podcast. We are on Apple and Spotify, Pain with a Purpose Podcast, and we're on Instagram as well, Pain W Purpose, at Pain W Purpose. Definitely looking for like more suggestions. Like, what do you guys want to hear? Right? Like, I'm not slowing down. We're going to continue to do this stuff. You know, I mean, a great example of like that guy might never know how much like that helps me.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And like I've had other people reach out as well, which is like kind of cool to hear. And like there's been people that like actually came before me that are like, you know, may or may not be struggling, and they're like, you know, like this is like really cool stuff. And it's like, it's 2024, right? All we're doing is just talking about like really language of the heart. We're just putting it out on a public platform.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the support definitely keeps me going. If you could subscribe, that'd be great. If not, I don't care.
Yeah, if not, see you.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's fast forward a good bit. Francesca.
Yeah, man.
What are you talking about? I mean,
Yeah.
you want to talk about pain with a purpose, dude.
Yeah.
That might be the cutest little girl ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's another, like, they talk about gifts of sobriety, like the fact that my daughter has no idea. I'll tell her, like, more so recently that, like, daddy's got a meeting, whatever, right? She don't know, right? One day, obviously, I plan to have that sit down talk with her, that, like, I'm the way I am, whatever, right? And, like, I do these things. But yeah, never had to see me, I couldn't imagine, man, like what an absolute gift from God and a blessing. It's my best friend.
Yeah.
My best friend. And I feel like, so what happened was I was plugged in, sober, commitments, GSR of a home group. I was like doing the stuff still as a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think, and like you said, like we don't really mature and develop like that because we're, what do you call it? Like, from the drugs, like they suppress that or whatever, we're behind. Majorly.
I'm probably like 20. I'm probably 22 now.
Still feel like I am. I'm still like, I was just having a talk with you on the way up here. Like there's a lot of things I got to figure out in my life. And, but, I wind up putting AA on the back burner because I got the union job. Right. And I told you, that's why I jumped into working in recovery, because I left the union because I was like damn near suicidal sober. Yeah. Right. But, I meet the girl of my dreams, whatever. And, and she becomes, and I was just talking this about somebody else, right? Is like, we have like this like pit in us, right? That like needs to be filled, right? And like, we call them voids or whatever. But again, coming into AA, like I hear void and I hear these terms and I'm like, the fuck are these guys talking about, right? Yep. But like, I just had this empty hole in me and it needs to be filled with something on a daily basis, right? And I get to pick and choose when I wake up. The second I wake up, and what am I filling that pit with? Am I going to do the good shit or am I going to do the bad shit? When I do the bad shit happens, right? And like, how I haven't picked up a drink or a drug in the last 11 years is like a miracle. Because I've filled that pit with bad things on many, many, many days. Right. And like that just determines how I feel at the end of the night. Right. Like if I wake up and I'm doing the stuff that you and I, the things that we're taught when we come in here and we first get sober, I feel great and light at the end of the night. Right. And when I'm doing the weird shit, it's hard to sleep at night. Right.
It's tough.
So yeah, so I stopped going to AA and like, no excuse, whatever, right? Like my life became full. AA provided me a life beyond my wildest dreams, right? I got you mentioned the car. I got the car. I got the girlfriend. No girls ever really, like I did okay, but like no girls really.
No, you didn't. Don't lie.
Probably not. But I like to think I did. Yeah. But like, I got a girlfriend and like an actual real girlfriend, right? And like I'm sober and, I don't know. The meetings were in the way. She wasn't in recovery, whatever. And, I got my life back now. So like, who needs AA? And, I went on like that for a while, dude, like until we separated and then her and I separate and the baby's one. And, now I'm back in AA with my tail tucked between my legs. Like, please help me. It's
a really interesting point, right? Because like, I don't like, and listen, I don't think any of us are really unique, right? Like there's some people that are a little bit better, right? Than maybe I can't even talk. That's not even a correct sentence. Might be a little bit better. Good. Might be a little bit better than like you and I. As far as the consistency pieces, but for me, like over the past 10 years, it's been peaks and valleys, right? Where it's like, I'm riding the high wave and I'm on this, I'm on the beam and like I'm floating through life and like everything's great. And then there's times where I'm not doing a goddamn thing, right? And I'm just like, it's just metal on metal, right? And I'm just like trying to do more at work or more in my personal life or more with like other stuff that I want to do with my life or more with my friends and it's just like, it gets really good. And then I get in pain. I get really good and it gets in pain, right? And like you talked about, I mean, it's really tough, right? I mean, like, God. Dude, imagine, I mean, you can't say imagine because you went through it, but like you were 20 some years old.
Yeah.
Your ass wasn't on fire anymore because you were multiple years sober. You're starting to get like some like really cool life stuff, right? And they're like meeting or like hang out at the house
or go drive the race car around,
right?
You know what I mean? Yeah, that was my thought then, right? I
still have video of that. I think we might have to thumbnail that.
He sends it to me every time it pops up on his memories. I thought I was something, man. Maybe I was.
All right, Paul Walker.
Yeah. What a guy, man.
But that's the truth, right? Like I don't change until I'm in enough pain.
Yes.
Right? Sober or not.
Yes. And that was the pain for me, right? Was like that separation. And I've always, dude, I've been sober 11 years and I go through phases. Like you said, like that's why when people get sober, it's like, dude, strap in, it's a roller coaster ride, right? Because like it really is. And that's the truth, right? And it's a beautiful thing, but it can be a dark, if we're not doing the things, it can get real weird, right? And I've filled it. Like I talked about the bad stuff, but like at like one point, like you bust my chops about this, but like at one point I was like playing video games for money. Like I was like, that's all I did. I would find something that I liked that took me out of myself. It didn't always have to be negative because like realistically having a hobby like video games is okay, right? I just don't know how to do things in moderation.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I find the video and now I'm locked into video games, right? And then I find the gym, right? And now I got to be the strongest guy at the gym. And like, that's why I'm a lot stronger than you. You know,
big time ego lifter here. Big time ego lifter here.
Yeah.
Doesn't even break a sweat in the gym. It's unbelievable.
I came from the gym. I probably look homeless, but yeah. So I, you know, over the years, man, like being out of AA, back in AA, out of AA, I've found these things, right? Like most recently, golf. Like I find golf. I find these hobbies.
You're big on the links.
Big golf club swinger, man. And yeah, like I find these things and I just obsess and I run with them, and that's just how I'm wired, and that's okay. Right. Because it can be applied in like positive ways as well. And so a few months back, right, I go through another thing. And like I said, like I've been through, so I've been present in my daughter's life for the last, you know, she's 5. I basically split time with her. And like I said, she's my best friend. But, you know, and like this hurts to admit out loud, but like I haven't really been that present because, you know, and that's why we talked about like me being off social media. Like, I'm a nut job, dude. Like I'll be with my kid, but like I'm more concerned with like posting a picture of her to see like what kind of attention I can get or whatever the case is, right? Than I am like, daddy, play zombies with me. We run around and bite each other and shit. And like little weird games she comes up with. And like, dude, like most recently I'm realizing like, wow, like I've kind of robbed, like being a dry drunk is a real thing, man. Because like we have, again, this condition. And like, that's why, was it you and McDowell that were talking about whether or not it was a disease?
I don't know.
I want to say it was. And like, that's another conversation. But like, I have like this thing that like, I need to apply certain things in my life on a daily basis or like, I won't be okay. And I won't be present. I'm there. I'm picking her up. She's well taken care of. I'm hanging, but like, I'm not really there, you know? And like jumping back into AA, I got a sponsor, man. I'm going to meetings almost every day. I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it, but I just feel light.
It's different.
I feel light. And like, that's why I called you last night and I was like, yo, we gotta, just because like, I want to scream it to the world. Like, God, I've been like robbing myself because again, like I've tried jumping back into AA, but I've never, and I think I got it figured out. And I think it was because I've never like truly like forgiven myself, like almost like made an amends to myself. And what I mean by that is, and this is where I kind of disagree with AA is like, you hear it all the time. It's like AA thief. And like, he got the good job and he left and he did this, he did that. And like, when like, in reality, right? Like we all need help and we all make mistakes. And that shit kept me out for a long time. Like I'd show back up to a meeting, I'm 5-6 years sober, right? And you're telling me, oh, nice to see you. Like, come on, man. You know, so like that kind of shit built up resentments and it kept me out and I felt guilty. And this time coming back around, I don't feel guilty. I'm doing the stuff.
Well,
dude.
Again, is it like equatable to the pain being great enough?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Without
like
a doubt.
You walk in there and you're like, you say whatever you want, brother. Like my ass is on fire again.
Without a doubt.
But I've also been there too, right? I have a really good buddy of mine and you know him, right? We're just going to say his name's JA3. Shout out Joey A, right?
Yeah.
But he puts it perfectly, dude. And like whether he's consistent or whether I'm consistent, but like he would put it absolutely perfectly, right? Because the way I got sober was like, you have to do like a certain number of things, right? In AA, right? Like first and foremost, it's got to be the 12 steps. You got to sponsor other guys. You got to have a commitment. You got to have a home group. As my life got more and more full, right? It's no secret that like I was also told when I first got sober that like I would go to AA or I should go to AA. So I never need AA, right? But there's so many conflicting things, right? But where I'm trying to go with it is like, he's like, dude, I go to my home group. I don't miss my home group because like I need that reminder. Every single time that like as much as like my life might look okay, I'm not okay, you know? And like that really like resonates with me where it's like I'm not okay no matter like, you know, if I see a random person on the street and they think that nothing's wrong, like no, I've been to treatment double digits, you know, like that's not normal,
right? And it's crazy because I knew them years that I was out I'm talking year. Like I'm talking like I would make 2 meetings a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the reason I was at a meeting was because like somebody called me, they were struggling. That's one thing I always did is I've worked in the field a long time and I've always showed up when asked. If somebody needed help, I always extended my hand. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I feel like that's one thing I have done right is I've always showed up, dude. And I've always suggested AA and I've always been like a big believer, but low key super resentful. Right. It's crazy because I knew I was in a bad spot. And like, if you would call me, I remember having conversations. You're like, dude, you gotta get to a meeting. You gotta get back to an AA. Because I'm like, you know, I'm complaining to you about this and that, and she did it. And you're like, have you been to a meeting? You know? And like, that just became such a foreign thought to me that like, again, like resentful, like F those people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, who cares? And like, thank God, man, that like this time, you know, or most recent, you know, in these past few months or whatever you want to call it, that like I felt that I have that drive again and like that open-mindedness and that willingness that like they talk about. Cause like realistically, I feel like a newcomer again. Right. And I share about this shit in meetings that I'm going through the steps again. I want to sponsor guys. Like I'm in no position to like, you know, sponsor somebody right now. I need sponsoring, right? Like I'm broken. You know, and it scares me to death that I'm going to lose this willingness that I have right now because it really is like, God, like if you're sober or you're trying and like you're closed off to AA or any kind of, you know, there's many different ways to go about sobriety. Just got to give yourself a chance, dude. Like I really, really like did a disservice to myself for a long time and even my loved ones, right? Like not, you know, not living right sober, right? Like I can be nasty sober. Like hopping out on people at red, like weird. I get nuts, you know, like unmad. You talk about unmad. God, I can't even talk.
Yeah,
unmanageable. Yeah. Like just.
I mean, like, dude, we could literally talk for hours on it. Like, you know, if I'm not doing what I need to do, even the bare minimum for myself, like it's like I used to joke with a lot of the guys that I would hang around, but it's like, the fuse is lit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At some point, the bomb's going to go off. And if I'm not doing something to like, you know, at least better myself or like broaden my spiritual horizon or like at least just like be able to sit quietly with myself without like ready to go out of my mind, what am I really doing?
Yeah.
It's literally
perfectly put.
Yeah, it's like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, the fuse is lit as a banger.
So with that, to bring it home, I ask everybody, it's kind of like the thing now, right? Like, what's the purpose, right? Like, you obviously have been through a ton of pain. You're also like a great example of like, myself included, but like, we can experience a ton of pain sober, dry, whatever we want to call it.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the purpose? What do you want the purpose to be? What do you foresee it being?
This is going to sound super corny and probably made up and fake or whatever, but like, I didn't think of this, like I didn't know you were going to ask me this. And like
Thanks for watching the show, dude.
Yeah.
It's like my trademark thing.
I'm a ghost. I'm off social media. So I don't, you know what I mean? But, I didn't know. My stomach just kind of sank when you asked that. But like the first thing that comes to mind is like, just to give back, man. I like truly, truly want to help guys and make sure like even dudes in sobriety, because like, again, like people with multiple years sober need help as well. Right. Like it's not just the new guy with included. 2 days. Exactly. Right. But like, I needed a lot of help, dude. Like I've had thoughts of like driving my car into walls sober. You know what I mean? Like I've been like legit, like about to check into mental facilities and stuff sober. But really just to like, to share my experience with like being out of AA and like, you know, again, like help the new guy. Just like, you know, like Johnny Butler says it all the time, like you got a lot to offer. Like, you know, that's why I'm always telling you to get back. Right. And like, I truly actually feel that for once. And I just want to help, dude. I just want to help people. I just want to be of service to others. That's the purpose, man.
I love it.
That's the purpose.
And we usually like do a little bit better in life when we're like operating like that. You know what I mean? And it's not like a selfish motive on the front end, right? It's just like feel better when like I'm just a little bit more concerned about you than I am with myself.
Yes.
Which doesn't make sense because like I wake up.
It is kind of selfish and it's like not though.
Yeah, but it's like I wake up and my base, like I wake up every single day the same way. Like, where's my vape? Fuck, I got to jump on this morning call. Right. And it's always just like me. And it's never like,
I'm on there with you, brother.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, I think it was a great episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you.
You know,
thank you.
Smash that like button. You know,
yeah,
I'm just gonna start saying it throughout the entire.
That's a banger. Yeah, who cares, dude?
Yeah,
a lot of people support you.
Instagram, Pain W Purpose. YouTube, Spotify, Pain with a Purpose podcast, and then on what did I just say? YouTube and Spotify. Apple.
Dude, I don't know, man.
Whatever. I'm on
I
all
don't
of
know.
them, dude. Pain with a Purpose podcast. Definitely appreciate the support. I'm not a YouTuber, right? Like that's like, I'm not.
You
Like,
kind of look like and sound like, you know.
but I'm not. Like I like it feels so foreign. It feels so forced to be like, you know, like us on it. Like
Well, here's the deal,
know what I
right?
mean?
This
Like
is how I look at that, not to prolong this, but like you have this thing going where you're talking about like real things, right? And you got people coming on here. I feel like I just got vulnerable, right?
mhm.
And you're trying to help people, right? It's not like people spend a good majority of their day on social media, right? Like that's just the times we're in.
Yeah.
And you're doing a good positive thing. And I really do believe that like you should not feel corny and like you're corny if you don't like and share. Straight up.
Yeah, I mean, it's my own shit, you know, it's just like,
Yeah.
it's foreign, right? Like
Yeah.
imagine like, you know, I used to like literally, cause I judge everybody, right? So I would like judge people for a very long time that were like putting themselves out there, trying to do more, like, you know, getting in front of like a some sort of platform or creating a platform.
Yeah, I can relate.
And it's like, you almost have to advocate for yourself, but it just feels weird. Right?
Yeah. From the outside looking, you know, from where I'm sitting, I think it's really cool. I think it's a really good thing. And I think you should promote it. And I think people should support. And I think it's
appreciate
great.
it, dude.
And I appreciate you having me.
Well, cool. We'll see you guys next week. I'm actually gonna like put this out this week.
Yeah.
So like this will be out.
Can we arm wrestle on cat? Cause
So I have a really good lens that we're gonna do a picture.
Okay.
And wait until you see what I do Photoshop wise.
it's
gonna be so good.
you're gonna tone me down big time.
Yeah.
You're the man.
All right, cool. So we'll see you guys next week. Appreciate it.